Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Changemakers. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Yoshi. On the Coffee with Changemakers podcast, we explore the stories of changemakers taking on some of today's biggest social and environmental challenges.
Every episode, we host an intimate conversation on social impact and leadership, where we listen, learn, and connect over a cup of coffee with inspiring guests from all over the world.
So before we jump into today's episode, we have a quick ask. If you enjoy our conversations, it would mean the world to us if you subscribe, rate, and perhaps even tell a friend about the show. Your support helps us bring even more inspiring guests onto future episodes.
So, here's today's coffee chat. Enjoy.
So welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Changemakers. I'm your host Yoshi, and today I'm sitting down with someone who's reimagining what green spaces and community can look like in Japan. So joining me is Robyn Natsuko Shinozaki, founder of Green Neighbors. She's leading Japan's first foodscaping initiative, blending sustainability and community well-being into something truly inspiring. From building a social impact project in Nepal during university, Robyn's journey spans climate, community, and culture, all rooted in a vision to bring people and nature closer together. So, Robyn, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, Yoshi.
Of course. I mean, oh man, I wish Robyn Lewis, the other Robyn, was here today. But obviously, he has important matters to attain to, so he wasn't able to come today. But I'm still glad that we were able to find time to catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pleasure to be here.
yeah. I mean, wow. It's been more than a year. I mean, might be several years since we last caught up. And I feel like Green Neighbors was just sort of starting off, right? So I'm really, really excited to sit down with you today and hear everything that's gone on over the past couple of years, because it was still like a baby, but I'm sure that it's sprouted into something magnificent. So can't wait to get to that part. But before we dive in, I kind of want to start. You have such an interesting background. Can maybe start off by sharing a little bit of, where you were born, where you were raised, your childhood, yeah, all that kind of stuff that made you who you are today.
Sure. I'm actually half Singaporean, half Japanese. I was born in Singapore, but I pretty much grew up in Kyushu, in Beppu.
Ooh,
So Beppu is an onsen town. I
yes,
grew up with a lot of hot springs,
nice.
and I lived on top of a mountain, also close to the sea. So I've always had lots of exposure with nature, and my days were filled really just playing outside and just really spending all my days kind of climbing trees and being in the mountains and
Mm,
foraging for like leaves and
mm.
berries.
Oh my god, oh my god, I'm so jealous because I'm a city boy, right? I grew up in Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea,
Mm.
so I did none of that. So I'm super, super jealous. I mean, I gotta say, I'm not lying, but Beppu has to be one of my favorite places in Japan. Yeah.
Mm.
Right now I'm sort of helping out. I mean, one of my clients, but I go there often for a renovation project that I'm doing. And every time I go back, oh, I love it.
Ah,
Every season, I don't know. It's just, I don't know about the city, but it just draws out something different every time. Whether you're back there in the winter or the summer or the fall, it's just such a unique place.
oh,
So,
absolutely. I love going back and I love my neighbors. I think
mm,
unlike Tokyo, there's more of
mm,
a closer relationship with the people around your community.
mm.
So people would grow their own things at home, even if you're not a farmer.
No way.
And it's basically sort of an exchange of the same crop. Everyone has like the same mikans or like the same tomatoes, and there's a bit of exchange. So
す
I
ごい。
really love that, and
す
I
ごい。
do miss that.
Oh, すごい. Oh my
Mm.
god. Oh, that's so cool. そうなんだ。そうなんだ. Wow. So, okay. So you kind of grew up in Beppu, but where did you go to school? Like,
So I went to local
oh,
school
okay. Okay.
up till high school. Then
Oh,
in university, I came out to Tokyo. Then my first job was in Singapore. I kind of went to Singapore for the first time, living there and just sort of exploring my roots
Mm.
because that was a part of me which I feel like I've not discovered for myself.
Mm. Wow, wow. So you spent several, I guess, several years in Singapore before coming back to Tokyo?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Wow. And I mean, every time I go back to Singapore, I feel like the city's done such an amazing job with like, I guess, urban farming. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, it is a small city state, but I feel like they've been able to really sort of, I don't know, blend in their natural urban environment. Japan, unfortunately, is not really there yet. But why do you think that's the case? Is it just a matter of attitudes of ordinary people? Is it just a leadership issue? Like, where do you see that difference that you see between Singapore and places like Tokyo?
Well, I think for Singapore specifically, there is a lot of government backing behind
Mm,
this,
okay,
especially for the urban farming movements.
gotcha.
Um, Especially during COVID, what was apparent was that when there were imports stopped from other Southeast Asian countries, Singapore started realizing that there's a huge food security issue. Numbers aren't exactly out there in the public, but is said to be around under 5% the self sufficiency rate. And Singapore wants to increase this to 30% by 2030, which is a very ambitious goal. That's why there's a lot of funding around hydroponics or other tech systems which could drive more farming within the city. But at the
Gotcha.
same time, there's also movements around having allotment gardens in
Mm,
the housing areas.
mm,
And this is just basically giving people a space to farm. And this is to increase production for one, but also to spread more awareness and joy around cultivating your own food
mm,
and
mm,
just bringing more of an awareness
mm.
to this issue and just, yeah, knowing where your food is sourced from.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, Japan also has like a food scarcity issue as well. Um, and, right now, rice prices are, really going up so high. But unfortunately, the Japanese government, I don't think they have that vision and they have implemented similar policies that's similar to the Singaporean 2030 vision, right? So I feel like there's a thing or two that we can definitely learn from Singapore's example. So moving forward, so then after that, you decided to move back to Japan, and then there's this whole you started Green Neighbors. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, Green Neighbors essentially is the first foodscaping operator in Japan. And what foodscaping is landscaping, but putting in edible plants like fruiting trees, herbs, and vegetables. And it's all centered around the idea of community wellness and also bringing more interactive green spaces, especially into the cities. And it's sort of a blend between maintaining the beautiful aesthetics, so having things like fruits and flowers year round, while also having a productive space where people can harvest and plant, maintain, and just really engage with the green spaces. And we do this through designing and building a foodscape, but also putting in programs and events and workshops. Our
Hmm.
clients are mostly corporate,
Hmm.
stemming from real estate, and also local government.
Oh wow! Oh, very cool. Okay. I mean, but how did you get started? Was it like I don't know. I'm really, really curious. How like did you just find a client that asked you for this, or did it start off with like your where you were living at the time, or your office, or what's the start? What does that startup journey look like?
Yeah, so after what I saw in Singapore, I was extremely inspired to do something in Tokyo because ultimately I saw Japan as a place where I would want to live in the long term, but that element of green spaces that you could really go into was missing for me.
Mm,
So I came in with a set goal, but my experience has nothing to do with this field.
mm,
I've always been in tech. So
mm,
it really started off from identifying who would be part of this initiative. And being in Singapore, especially in this lockdown situation, a lot of the prep was done remotely. I reached out to landscapers, horticulturists from Singapore and had a bunch of Zoom calls. And the idea of foodscaping was extremely foreign to everyone, but a couple of them were really inspired by this idea, and they were like, "Yes, let's." They're willing to do this and just
Nice.
embark on this unknown.
Mm.
So I came back. I started this company called Green Neighbors. But hey, like first clients, like how do I find
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So key.
Just cold call prospecting.
Really? Wow.
I didn't exactly pick up the phone,
Yeah.
but just lots of cold emails,
Wow.
just reaching out to whoever that could potentially make this happen.
Wow.
And there was a lot of trial and error in the way that I pitched this.
Right.
I think very early on, what I noticed was that the challenges to begin
Mm.
with was that we had no track record.
Mm.
And I think this is probably a shared sentiment from anyone doing business in
Yep.
Japan, maybe especially with some foreign backgrounds, but
Yep.
they're always looking for case studies. What have you
Exactly.
done?
Exactly.
We came in with zero.
Yep.
So getting that first customer, I
Mm.
knew was extremely key.
Mm.
And that was the hurdle that we really had to nail down
Wow.
early on. And by chance, I was able to connect with the Kawasaki local government, and they gave us this opportunity to work on this really humble plot of
Mm.
land
Mm.
as our pilot project.
Nice. Wow, that's great. So your first client was the Kawasaki city government.
Yes.
That is a huge client to land.
Yes, it
I mean,
was. So
congrats.
thank
That's one.
you. We are overjoyed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. Okay. And then it was actually through that case study that you were able to reach out to other clients and be like, "Hey, we did it with the government. Would you like to cooperate?" And you just kind of scaled from there. Okay.
Yes. You're right on that. But I think one thing that we wanted to bring forth through this case studies is not just the fact that as green neighbors, we had something to show for, but is this idea of foodscaping itself because it was so new.
Mm.
Just getting that buy in to this concept was really something that we had to prove.
Mm.
And unlike Singapore, where they were using harvest from the foodscape into their restaurant F&B menu, or even some hotels were incorporating as part of their breakfast, or maybe in some of their experiential programs, the challenge was that not many, I would say, clients in Japan was willing to go into having their people eating the food.
Mm.
There's always this, oh, what would happen if things
Mm.
go wrong?
Mm.
Say the appetite for risk is much lower in Japan,
Yep.
and that was very apparent in this idea of a foodscape where people would be ingesting
Mm.
the harvest produce from this.
Mm.
So, building on early case studies around, oh, you could actually eat this produce because there's nothing that prevents this from a legal standpoint. It's just that there was no precedent. So, creating some early wins on that, but also expanding the idea of foodscape into not just eating it, but using the harvest for things like craft or learning points was actually because of this restriction allowed us to think more creatively in how we could utilize the foodscape and how we can have engagement points with the
Mm.
community.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. I totally understand the part where Japanese people, especially, yeah, Japanese corporations are very including the government, are very risk averse, and they don't want to take on new initiatives unless you can minimize that risk factor as much as possible, which makes it super challenging for us like entrepreneurs, right? Um, what other sort of challenges did you face in this journey, and how were you able to overcome them? If you could share maybe one or two stories, that would be great.
In retrospect, I
Yep.
think early on, I tried to do many, I would say, random things
Mm, mm,
that didn't necessarily serve the purpose
mm.
of Green Neighbors and what it stands for.
Okay.
I think there were lots of different opportunities that I saw at that time, which I thought were good ideas, which could bring in income, revenue. But it wasn't really foodscaping that we're doing.
Mm,
And as a social enterprise, although I wouldn't necessarily categorize what we do as a social enterprise, but a business with a strong social mission, we aren't exactly able to offer the best compensation out there.
mm,
But we still want to attract the best people.
mm,
And the way to do that is to really have a strong mission
mm,
and a strong go getter attitude on what we want to achieve here. And I realized that by doing these more random things that were sort of like a spin off of foodscaping, what good opportunities in forms of diversifying maybe the business or bringing in that revenue in the short term, but it wasn't attracting the right people in
mm,
the long term
mm,
and wasn't building the kind of culture
mm,
that I wanted for the team
mm,
or the impact that we're trying to make.
mm.
So I think the challenges were really sort of narrowing down the things that we wanted to do and being able to say no to the other things.
Right.
So that was a
Interesting.
huge learning curve for me.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. Um, okay. You sort of mentioned revenue, challenges, finding the right people. Like, may I ask a little bit about the business model of Green Neighbors?
Sure. So what we do is the design and build
Okay.
phase. So that is really kind of building the hard infrastructure. And this is all with the client's funding. So we don't go out to borrow spaces and build there. It is more of a space which a client wants to reimagine, and we help them achieve that. Then, as sort of a recurring revenue model, we do maintenance, but we also run workshops and events that would bring the local people or maybe the tenants of that specific facility to join in on. And these workshops and events, I facilitate them, but I always bring on local individuals or companies. And I believe that there are so many micro entrepreneurs around us, people who may be doing things, who may be having a main job, but then they have maybe side businesses or side hobbies, and they have a lot to offer to people. So, for example, right now I work in a space in Ibisu Garden Place, and over the course of 6 months since we begin, we've had about 4 workshops. One of them includes a local flower shop which helped us build these beautiful ornaments from the flowers picked from the space. And they arranged them into really pretty bouquets. And we're able to give them to the tenants. And there is this really nice old gentleman who has been cultivating Tokyo made strawberries for the past 20 years. And we ran a workshop with him to introduce these local strawberries to the kids in the neighborhood. So I find a lot of joy in finding these micro entrepreneurs to collaborate with in the local area because they are ultimately the ones who know the community best and have things to offer and develop the community. And I have really seen firsthand how these interactions has spun onto things that are bigger, into deeper connections, and just expanding their own neighborhood and their own view in what the whole area is about.
Wow, that's excellent because, man, especially those initiatives with the kids, because I think there was a Facebook post or a Twitter slash X post that I saw recently, or probably a while back, but they asked kids like, where do these fruits come from? And they said, oh, these fruits come from supermarkets. They
Mhm.
literally think that they just come straight from these supermarkets and they're not like grown anywhere. And I have to say that because I'm such I was a kid that was raised in such urban areas. I was probably one of those kids that
Mhm.
thought that. So it's awesome that you guys are providing such educational opportunities for local, Japanese and local kids in those areas. That's really amazing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we also try to be pretty conscious of is to introduce in native edible plants.
Mm,
So,
mm.
for example, in Kawasaki,
Mm.
we brought in something called norabona,
에,
which is a vegetable that's part of the brassica family, sort of like a kale and a spinach,
okay,
but it has a cultivation history in Kawasaki.
okay.
And Kawasaki is really known for its industrial hub. So not many people associate it with
Yep.
agriculture, but there used to be a flourishing agricultural history, and
Really
people don't know about this,
interesting.
not even the locals.
Interesting.
So by bringing in this specific species called norabona, there's actually this old couple that does the preservation effort. So we source it from them. They're able to come to the space, explain about their work and their love towards norabona,
Mm,
and that sort of spun off into a planting workshop. So
wow.
kids were able to really see firsthand how this vegetable is grown. And
Wow.
they and we were able to bring them to a local bakery and they made this special
Oh,
sandwich,
oh, so cute.
norabona focaccia
Oh, so cute.
sandwich. But it was really cool to see that whole
Yeah,
cycle from that
yeah.
seed to actually it being circulated
Mm.
within the local neighborhood in the form of a sandwich, like an end product.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I
Mm.
gotta try this norabona, is that right?
Yes.
Norabona sandwich? Oh my god, that sounds how does it taste like, or what does it even look like?
So it's kind of like your nanohana. I'm sorry, I'm not really sure
Okay,
how you call them in
okay,
English,
okay,
but you can eat the stems,
okay.
and they are highly, highly nutritious.
そうなんだ.
And when they grow, they just like grow pretty wildly.
Wow.
And the local government that was our client at that
Right.
time, they were just really amazed by how easily you could grow
Mm.
these things. And they're like,
Mm.
we should actually make this more of like an official city vegetable.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
part of regenerating what
Mm.
was there as their
Right.
agriculture
That's right.
and sort of bringing that back into the highlight of the city. So it's both a learning point, but I think it's a way to also kind of bring a new characteristic, highlight this special part of the city, which
Mm.
has not been known for in a long time.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, you guys can say, "Hey, we're the ones who helped this city, come up with their new logo slash, which is a vegetable, and the Green Neighbors was a core part of that." Wow, that's an amazing
That's a
story.
dream.
Okay, so Robin, I'm super curious. So I want to get into like the why of everything that you do, you know? So like what is it that sort of gets you up in the morning? It's like, man, I'm going to devote like the free time that I have that I could spend for to do anything else, but I want to devote it to my mission, my vision, devote it to Green Neighbors. Like how do you keep moving forward?
I think it's really just seeing firsthand the impact that it has on the people. From the kids who maybe seen a tomato plant for the first time and realizing that it doesn't come from supermarkets. It's actually a couple months process.
Wow.
There are bees involved. There are all this wildlife involved in having that delicious tomato into your salads. And just seeing that pure sheer excitement and wonder in their eyes has been extremely rewarding.
Mm, mm, mm.
And actually, I've seen a huge difference in the clients themselves. When they first approach us, I think they come with this idea that, oh, hey, maybe it'll be cool to have a bit of urban farming within their estate. It has something to do with sustainability. It's a nice photo op, but it's actually really more than that. And as we do these initiatives, working with micro entrepreneurs, do these workshops, you really see them realizing that there is a bigger vision at play there. It's really an opportunity to engage and develop the whole community and to create these successes within the community and see this difference that it has on all the people involved. And I think what has been really cool is that the clients are now proposing different ideas on what we can do.
Wow.
Whenever they find someone interesting within the community or see some sort of type they can do with the foodscape, whether it be maybe food and beverages type of opportunities,
Mm,
or maybe involving some sort of environmental education opportunity,
mm,
they come to us and we sort of become a soundboard and start developing these programs. That
mm.
has been extremely, extremely rewarding. And all
Wow.
these engagements that we have with clients is a year, 2 year long span.
Oh, great.
So it's nice that we're able to develop in the long term.
Wow.
And I think recently we've been really doing this really cool initiative where we don't plan the workshops, but we have this thing called a garden time where we
Mm,
open up the foodscape to the public
mm,
once a month for about an hour.
mm.
And we do whatever that's required on the foodscape. So
Eh,
that could be maintaining the foodscape. And the things change, depending on the season. Sometimes you can get kumquats, sometimes
mm,
you could get blueberries,
mm,
and every season has different needs, different things that you can do. And it's a teaching point on the natural cycle
mm,
of nature. It's
mm.
kind of being in touch with the rhythm of this.
Right.
So, right now, what we have in stored in for the next session, because it's getting warmer and things are growing more wild, instead of just pruning them and throwing away the leaves and the branches, which actually a lot of landscapers do, is to compile them into a bouquet,
Mm.
a summer bouquet where
Wow.
people can bring home into their
Oh my
homes.
God.
So
Oh, that's
sort of like
beautiful.
upcycling it
Yeah. Yeah.
and having that buy-in from the client that, hey, it's not something that we're really planning, but working with the natural cycle of a foodscape, I think is something that we are able to achieve right now
Yeah.
because we've built that relationship and
Right.
that trust with the client.
Wow. Wow. へえ、そうなんだ. Okay. Well, I kind of want to start, looking into the future now. So, 3 years, maybe 5 years down the line, where do you see yourself taking Green Neighbors? Do you think Japan is going to be more friendly towards, urban farming, or do you think that the government's not going to change? Or, yeah, where do you see it going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Hmm. I think people are increasingly going to realize that green spaces are important.
Yep.
I mean, one, because there's just so much more activism around the sustainability space
Yep.
and protecting environment. So that's that. But I think just naturally people are attracted to nature just because we're natural beings, and seeing more case studies from across the world around urban farming, having these interactive green spaces, I think will inspire Tokyo.
Cool.
And I truly believe that what we're doing in Green Neighbors is creating strong cases that this is what works. It is not something that you get returns on investment in the long term,
Mm,
but there's a profound impact in the way that people interact with nature,
mm,
people interact with one
mm,
another. So I would love to bring more of these foodscapes across urban cities,
mm.
mainly in the Kanto region, but outside of Kanto region as well, wherever there's more congested urban spaces. I
Yep.
think there's a space for foodscaping.
Nice.
And I'd love to bring more of the food element into this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're building sort of like early case studies around eating these.
Mm, mm,
We're
mm,
going to
mm.
be making tea out of the
Wow.
herbs harvested next
Oh,
month,
wow.
but having that understanding from our clients and
Mm,
I think the government is going to really spearhead
right.
more of these foodscaping initiatives when
Yep.
we're able to actually have this food more of the core part of what we
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. I mean, every time, the government sort of lays out their, I don't know, 2030 or 2050 vision of Japan, you always see these beautiful renderings of these like urban spaces, blended in with all these plants and trees and urban farming. And I feel like the vision is there, but the implementation part is where they always struggle. So I think Green Neighbors is the perfect organization to like really step in there and advise municipalities, local governments, and even corporations on what they need. So it's amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. And I mean, this is not just us, right? I mean, we're a piece of this larger picture. And I'm a big advocate of bottom up initiatives, working with local people,
Yeah,
people who know the stuff on the ground.
yeah.
So, Green Neighbors is actually, we work in sort of a guild style. Project by project, we work with people that are best suited to make this happen. So, that includes
Yeah.
landscapers, horticulturists, agronomists,
Wow.
plant chefs,
Wow.
and I'm excited to welcome in more people with different range of expertise
Nice.
because I think each place that we do these foodscapes, the context, the sort of mission that we're trying to achieve varies bit by bit.
Mm.
So that's it's always great to bring in people
Wow.
with a breadth of different skills and expertise.
Wow.
And it's just more fun. It's a more
Yep.
creative process. So I
Yep.
think we all have a part to play in this picture. Yeah, so just always kind of welcoming people who
Wow.
can make this happen in different capacities.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. When you guys open up that first Green Neighbors, I don't know, restaurant
Hmm.
or cafe using like local produce, let me know.
Hmm.
I'll be your first guest. I'll be your first
I
guest.
will for sure.
So,
Down the line, I'd love
yes.
to
Thank
make
you.
that happen.
Thank you, Rob. So, kind of taking this back to now, you, um, what were some of the major like lessons that you learned along the way? And this could be about yourself. This could be about social entrepreneurship. This could be about leadership. But yeah, what were some of the lessons that you've learned throughout this whole process of leading Green Neighbors?
This experience really forced me to learn about what I like and what I'm good at.
Yep.
Just being faced with the clients, these projects, I really had the opportunity to think for myself what it is that I thrive most in.
Mm.
I think part of it is also accepting things that I'm not good
Yep.
at and leaning on to
Yep.
others to cover for that. And I think initially, I really wanted to do everything. I had the vision, and almost in a micromanagerial way, I would want to know what's going on with everything and be part of it. But I quickly realized that my strength was really in engagement with the community and orchestrating the bigger picture. And by me focusing on that, I was really able to accelerate the projects and these initiatives and just really relying on the expertise, especially on the design and the plants itself. It had amazing people
Mm.
on board,
Mm.
and I feel that in the beginning phases, I wasn't truly leaning onto them, which means that they couldn't do their best work either.
Mm.
So letting go and having the ownership sort of transfer onto them enabled them to do the best that they could
Wow.
and really take it to the next level
Mm.
in a creative manner.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, especially as somebody who's also growing as a leader as well, I think that's definitely right. Like you got to know your strengths, your weaknesses, focus on what you're good at, and just really outsource, delegate all the things that you're not as good at, right?
Yeah, and
That's
I
key.
think when people are doing what they love
Yep.
and what they're good at,
Yep.
it's just a net positive.
Exactly.
So much better than trying
Exactly.
to, well, I'd say, well, improvement is
Yep.
important, but definitely honing in
Mm. Mm.
on the positives,
Right.
I think has been transformative in
Yep.
what we do.
Exactly. I love the word you use, orchestrate. I mean, as a conductor, you can't play every single instrument, right?
Mhm.
You got to really rely on the most talented, violinist, the most talented cello player, right? Or in the business sense, it will be the tech person or the business manager person. But yeah, you got to just really create that the best team to execute your vision and just really trust them to
Right.
follow through. So
Right.
that's an amazing learning. Okay, so on that note, advice to aspiring change makers, right? So we have a lot of young entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs who listen to Coffee Change Makers, and you've been there, you've done that, Robin. So, um, what are some of the advice and words of advice and any tips that you think that you could share with our the listeners of this podcast?
So I have two things here.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that clarity comes from engagement, not for thought.
Mm,
So rather than spending time cultivating a business plan
mm,
using pen and
mm,
paper,
mm,
instead go out there,
mm,
really experience things, talk to people,
mm,
and just immerse yourself in whatever that area may be. I think you will almost always end up with a action item which you've not thought about that could be your next move. And I'd say even try to experience things that are out of this maybe core area because you could really match, I think, the different type of experience or different type of environments
mm,
into creating a solution
mm,
for a specific problem.
mm,
So if you have an idea, if you have a problem that you want to solve for,
mm.
just go out, experience it,
Nice,
and just take time doing that.
nice.
Another piece of advice I think is in startup, you always think fail fast.
Yep.
Um, but what we're trying to do as people that trying to make social impact,
Mm,
we're not just bringing in revenue.
okay.
We're trying to influence people on how they view things
Okay.
and how to address certain societal problems.
Mm, mm.
And that takes time.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say to immediately disregard the activities that you're doing just because it's not going into the right direction. So keep an eye out on what's working, what's not,
Hmm.
but also give it enough time.
Hmm.
It's really about, I think, building the relationship and trust of people
Hmm.
because I think whatever that you do as a social entrepreneur,
Hmm.
it's all going to be about the community,
Yep.
about people that you're working with.
Yep.
So I would say just value that
Nice.
really and maybe even over index on that because they are going to be your biggest champions
Nice.
and you need that momentum
Yeah.
more
100%.
than anything.
100%. Amazing. All right. Well, bringing this to a close, what's something that you're super excited about that you guys are about to, I don't know, launch or work on? I guess, yeah. What's next on the horizon for you? Anything you want to kind of share with our listeners?
For one, I'm really excited about working more with the food portion.
Cool.
So, bringing in chefs
Mm,
that could forage from our foodscape
mm,
and using that to make tea and making sweets. And we really want to bring this to an experiential program. So, kind of combining that with how people can be involved in the process, I think that's a huge learning opportunity. And it's going to be an epiphany for many
yep.
to realizing that you could actually pick things and things that seemingly may not be food
Yep.
could actually be delicious and healthy things that you could that's great for the body
Yep.
and for your taste buds.
Cool.
Um, Another thing that I'm really excited about is to be working more on corporate projects.
Mm,
So up
mm,
to now, it's been a lot more places like malls or more community, which is more public,
okay.
I'd say.
Okay.
But now we're delving more into space of within company
Mm,
compounds.
nice.
And I'm just really interested to see how we can intertwine with the idea of employee engagement
Mm,
because as someone who so works in a corporate environment, I see that it's important to have great relationships with the
right.
coworkers and being able to tangibly see what the company is doing with sustainability.
Yep.
I think overall there are these big overarching sustainability goals,
Right.
but as an employee or people on the ground, you don't necessarily see progress
Yep.
or action towards it.
Yep.
And I think foodscaping is very one tangible way or space where you can talk about these topics
Mm,
and start having this real conversation and
mm,
feedback loops
mm.
with leadership on what has to be changed within the company
Cool.
and just fostering more biodiversity
Yep.
within the compound. So that's significant impact, I think, on the environment,
Mm,
but also the well-being and even health of
mm,
people. So
mm.
I'm really looking forward to experiencing that side of the chapter in Green Neighbors.
Beautiful, beautiful. So anyone who's part of the corporate partnerships team, reach out to Robin. Just kidding. So talking about reaching out, where can people find you? Do you have a social media page that people can sort of access right now? Website? If you can kind of share where people can find you, that would be great.
Sure. So I think the best way will be over Instagram. Just type in Green Neighbors. You should be able to find us. Um, we're looking for more of these spaces to implement foodscapes, but also people who want to be part of the Green Neighbors team in any capacity. As I mentioned, just always welcoming people with different sort of skill sets and experiences. I think that what creates a unique and interesting foodscape. So do reach out. Would love to collaborate.
Amazing, Jordan. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Robin. I mean, I was so glad to be able to hear that your story today. I mean, it was nice kind of catching up with you, but also learning that so much has happened, in the past couple of years since the last time we caught up. And you've made so much impact already with local municipalities, with children's educational programs, by producing these micro entrepreneurs. It's just been such an amazing experience to kind of hear all the progress that you've made. So, yeah, I hope that there'll be somebody who will reach out to you through this podcast so you can expand upon what you guys are, envisioning and executing at Green Neighbors. And we can't wait to sort of like hear what happens in the next 5 years.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Robin.